Everybody, welcome back. I'm the Strategy Professor, and today we're going to be going over my tier list for every role. So as always, if you enjoy the content, please be sure to like and subscribe. It really helps out a ton on the channel. Come by, check out the stream. Starts around 11:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Usually goes till about 3 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Very friendly, chill community. We'd love to have you. And check out the rest of the content on the channel as well. We do fresh patch notes, tier lists for every single patch. And we also have individual champion guides, topical guides, like best one tricks, how to micro better, how to macro better, and tons of other content on the channel, so be sure to check all that out. Okay, let's go ahead and get in here. So I will say that the stats have changed dramatically in the bot lane on this patch, and I'm not sure exactly like what's up with that. I know that they ostensibly nerfed mandate some, but a lot of the mandate champs are still doing quite well. They changed the zeal items a little bit to where they're 100 more gold, but you get 5% more attack speed. But I didn't think there was that much that was going to change the meta. But, I mean, the new guy, Viego, came out, and he's terrible, so, like, at least a lot of people are really bad on him. So he is giving out a lot of free wins to people. But if you looked last patch, if you've been sort of tracking the channel and you come by the stream, you'd know that, like, a lot of supports had really low win rates over the last little bit. I think that Maokai was like 53% or something, and he was the only thing that was 53 plus. And then it very quickly, there was like maybe just a couple of champs that were like maybe 52 plus, and then it went up. Actually, I mean, I can just pull it up right here and show you what I'm talking about. If we go back to 11.1, look at the difference, right? Maokai's 53, Thresh 51, Seraphine, 52, Leona 51, Nami 51. Then I have it organized by pick, ban, influence. So that's kind of a formula that Lolalytics uses here that takes into account the win rate of a champion, but also how much they are picked and how much they are banned. So it just gives you a better view, gives you a little bit more weighting on certain percentages, because something can have a really high win rate, but it's just not really picked that much, and it's not really banned that much, so it's not influencing the meta that much. But either way, just look across these numbers. I mean, it's a lot of 51s, a lot of 50s, and there's a heck of a lot of stuff that's under 50. I mean, look at all that red. It's everything. Like, half of the champions are under 50. So it really was not looking good for supports last patch, at least statistically. And then the same thing with the bot lane, right? If you look at bot lane here, there weren't any, like, mainstream actual bot laners that had over 52. Like, Tristana was 51, Jin's 52, Kaiser's 51, Vayne's 51. And just goes down the list, right? And it's the same drill. So much red. Like, everything's red, right? But if we go over to 11.2, I mean, you'd think something, like, crazy happened on this patch, right? Like, they added 50% damage or something, because now you've got Kaiser's at, 53, Vayne's 53, Tristana's 54, even Twitch is almost 54 with a 3% pick rate, so he's not, like, obscenely rare. Senna's 54. Senna was like 47. They did buff her on this patch specifically several times, but almost all of the ADCs went up quite a bit, right? And there's still a few that are in the red, but not very many. And then if we go back and look at the supports, Seraphine's 55 now, Thresh 53, Leona 53. So champions across every class that use a bunch of different items and fit different comps and have different levels of experience required to pilot them well. Everything's up. Just about. I mean, Malachi is down a little bit. I said he'd be down about 1% with those changes, and he is, but he's still good. He's my number one, actually, which we'll talk about here in a second. But yeah, I just wanted to preface by throwing that out there because I don't know what happened, but something just really weird. Now, I will note that Senna is still, as a support, she is a little bit lower at 51. What did I just see? Okay, maybe I was looking at something else. I thought I saw that she was like 47. Maybe I was looking at Twitch support. Even Twitch support's up. That was like 42% last patch. Now it's 47. So I don't know what the hell's going on. I don't remember. Maybe some of the nerfs to like other stuff, like Olaf. Olaf still has a high win rate though, and some of the gore drinker things. I don't really know. But anyways, I just wanted to point that out because it's strange. Another thing that happened on this patch was they fixed the upside down elo. Mark Yetter tweeted about it. I'm not going to pull it up, but he admitted that it was a problem. He said it was a bug or a glitch or something where almost everybody was getting like plus 12, minus 16, even if you were on a huge win rate. I know that last week I won 14 in a row, and when I finally did get a loss, I lost 16, and I had been getting like 12 the entire way up. So he said that that was not intended and that they were going to boost that up a little bit. Because if we look at the distribution here, I will show you this just real quick. It's definitely a problem. Like they've said they didn't want there to be inflation in ELO because they got rid of the promo series and they're afraid everyone was just going to go straight to Diamond because of no promos. I disagree with that logic, but that was their logic. And if you look at the rank distribution, it's very different than it has been in past seasons. There is some severe suppression, especially around the Platinum rank, because Platinum historically has been about 15% of the player base, especially like around Platinum 4, you get about 15. So it's been somewhere between like 10 to 15. There have been some seasons where it's been as low as like maybe 8 to 10% of the player base, but now it is 6% of the player base is in Platinum. So that what that means is that like half of the people that were in Platinum last season or that would qualify skill-wise to be in the equivalency of Platinum last season are now not in Platinum. They're going to be in Gold and lower. And Diamond has dropped a little bit too. It's only 1.2% right now. Now, some of that is because of the early, drop. Right? Everyone loses about a league at the start of the season, and then they have but this just shows that it's really hard to climb back to where you were. I mean, I didn't, on my Smurf account, I ended the season Platinum 4. I didn't get back to Platinum 4, and I had like a 72% win rate when I first got back to Platinum 4, and it took me like 60 or 70 games at a 70% win rate just to get back to where I was. And it seems like that shouldn't be how it is. It feels like if you're going like 55 to 60% win rate, you should move up at a pretty decent pace. But anyways, I just want to point that out there, that there's some weird stuff going on in terms of rank suppression this patch, but they did address it at about the same time the patch dropped. So we'll see if the distribution changes. But anyways, let's go ahead and get in here. So I just wanted to throw all that out there. Let's get to the main course here. Okay. So I still think that Maokai is the best overall, even though he does have a lower win rate than some of the other ones. And this is debatable. There are several good supports and several different kinds of supports that are good. As you can see, there are enchanters, there are tanks. The Zyros and the Brands aren't at the very top, but they're definitely playable. They're like 52 or 53. But Maokai is basically an AP support, the way that people build him. He puts up a lot of damage in games, and a lot of it is poke. But he's going to end up doing usually second or third DPS on the team. Like, he's going to do more damage than, at least a couple of your carries in a lot of games. And he also has a lot of CC, and he's pretty difficult to kill with Aftershock. So they changed Mandate, and I talked about this in the support tier list, so I won't go too far down that rabbit hole. But basically, this is going to hurt his damage a little bit if you stack a bunch of seeds in the same bush. But if people are walking around and, only proccing a seed every 6 seconds or so, it's not going to be that bad. And there might be some circumstances where it could even be net positive if they hit your seed and then your team engages and, triggers the Mandate before you get another piece of CC on them, then your Mandate will come off cooldown maybe 1 or 2 seconds faster, and you can get a second trigger in some fights, and that could be really important. So it does matter a little bit. The mana costs don't really matter at all. You can adjust his build a little bit. I've been taking biscuits. More people are taking biscuits as well. I really like boots biscuits. You get the free boots. The biscuits give you that extra 150 mana, which is nice. So I don't think the mana costs at the end matter that much. He is down a little bit, but he just has everything. Like, he's got good poke early, he has great CC later, and he just has such amazing vision control. It's just so difficult for a lot of champions to walk through those seeds to contest objectives later on in the game. And he does have some good all-in potential, right? If you flash W, if your jungler's coming down to gank, that's almost a guaranteed kill if they're in the middle of the lanes. They can't flash it, they can't dash out of it. So he's just going to still be quite strong. So his damage did get dinged a little bit, but I still think he's going to be good. Now, I have been seeing some people going for Moonstone on here. Apparently, that's really bad on this badge. I've tried it. I mean, I feel like maybe it can be situational sometimes. The win rate is quite low on it. I know everyone's been going crazy with Moonstone because LS has been talking about it a lot. In longer fights, like, this can be okay. You know, he does like longer fights. Potentially because he does have a lot of CC. He's tanky. All that kind of stuff. But in general, you probably still just want to go Mandate. Now, the tankier builds are getting more popular, so you are seeing, like, some Locket, some Dead Man's Plate. It's a much lower sample size, but in general, like, the standard build is still going to be pretty good. Just the Imperial Mandate into either Melonomicon, Demonic Embrace, or Kim Tank. Now, another thing that's really nice for Maokai Support, and he's really the only one that can... I guess there are a couple others that can do it, but he's going to be one of the main people who can get an Oblivion Orb really fast without really hurting his build. And that's so useful because there's so much healing in the game right now, and sometimes your carries, especially in solo queue, just won't get the Grievous Wounds, or you just won't have enough coverage of Grievous Wounds. You know, maybe your ADC is just hitting the tank, and that's good if they have Executioners, but maybe they can't really comfortably, like, get to the back line or hit multiple targets at once. When you're dealing with something like Moonstone, or when you're dealing with Redemption or something like that, that might be switching targets or hitting multiple targets and getting around a single target Grievous Wounds. So it is pretty nice. And I've come to actually, like, if you get the Kim Tank Purifier, you are losing out on the health, which is a big deal. But if they don't have a lot of dive for your backline, this is really handy. The extra mana regen does help with the extra seed cost, which once again isn't too prohibitive, but it can add up in, like, really long sieges around barons and things like that. And you do get the extra ability haste where you can throw out more seeds. So that is worth considering. Just remember, you are going to be a bit squishier. The AP doesn't matter as much. The AP ratio on the seeds is not amazing to begin with. But you are going to be squishier. And it is far cheaper than Demonic Embrace. This is the gold standard. This is a great item, but it is expensive. So if you are behind in a game and you just need to get some good utility, then getting Oblivion Orb into either Morello or Kim Tank can be a decent option. And I've been looking at Ionian boots a little bit more. The Sork boots do have quite a higher win rate, so you want to do that most of the time. But if you feel like you're just kind of behind and you just want to have, you know, more potential to get some picks, maybe with your ults, or just throw up more seeds and just have some more coverage or something like that, then Ionians could be a decent choice. But it's probably going to be Sork boots most of the time. Anyways, we'll speed up a bit. This is not just the support tier list. I do want to talk about the other champs. Leona's still going to be very good. Not a lot to say about her. Just crazy engage, really low cooldowns on all of her abilities, pretty high damage early, and extremely tanky. So she's just the premier engage champion. You got to be a little careful and make sure that you're timing your engages correctly, that you're not, you know, taking bad fights. But other than that, she's still going to be the gold standard, and there's not a ton of stuff that can stop her. I mean, people are starting to pick Rel potentially as a decent counter pick into her, but she's still going to be very good. And you can just outmaneuver if someone picks a Morgana or a Rel or something in the lane, and you just think that, you know, maybe you can't kill that person. You can always just grab Moby Boots and just try to roam middle or help your jungler invade or something like that. Like, you can find plays. So she's going to be one of the best playmakers out there. Okay, Seraphine is another one that I definitely moved up a little bit, and she has skyrocketed. And I'm not 100% sure what's up with that, other than the damage has gone down a bit over time in the bot lane, so they have consistently nerfed a lot of the damage items that ADCs are getting. And they nerfed a lot of, like, the mage items early, so they nerfed Night Harvester, Leandries, and things like that. So, like, the Brand and the Zyra got hit off of those. And then they nerfed, I don't remember, they nerfed Jhin, I believe, a couple of times. He was really oppressive for a while there. But at any rate, the game has just slowed down a bit. They did buff Ionians. They changed Moonstone, which turns out to have been a pretty big buff. And ADCs in general are pretty strong right now, so being able to go for these team fight type of comps, the Staff of Flowing Waters and things like that are good. Also, they nerfed Assassins pretty hard, so you're not, and people aren't playing them as often middle. You're still seeing it some, but people are moving more towards control mages, so you're not seeing as many Fizzes, Zeds, Talons, Kha'Zix's, stuff like that. So it does make you a lot safer in the mid game and the late game. It's much easier to position in the team fights. So I think that there's just been a bunch of stuff changing around Seraphine that has made her stronger. But yeah, she's going to be the premier, Moonstone, Staff of Flowing Water champion in the bot lane. She has very good poke with her Q. Her E, has a nice root. And then one thing that makes her different from a lot of the other like Moonstone users is that she has a very good engage too with her ultimate. It's got a pretty wide hitbox. It does have kind of a long cooldown, 160 to start with, but you can get a lot of CDR, right? Like this is going to give you 40 right here, and then you can take Ulti Hunter, which is what a lot of people take, which is going to give you another 25. So you can get that cooldown to be fairly low. Sadie, there she is. You're right. Hi.
That's where your cat.
Yeah, the cat's in here. Yeah, how are you doing? Did you have fun outside? Good. Good. But yeah, very strong, good poke, great team fights, and the...
me.
What is it? What is it?
Yeah, my table is.
Oh, Daddy's got your table. We can get you another one of those.
Whoa, look, Dad. It's your boat. You can watch yourself on that one.
Yeah,
and I can watch
oh, there you go.
myself on there.
Hey, can I see it real quick, though, Rory? I need to just turn it down a little bit. It might be kind of loud, okay?
It might be down. It might be a little bit too quiet.
That's right. There you go. Okay, you want to go watch it on the couch? So yeah, very good. You do have to be careful against engage still in the bottom lane, like an early Leona combined with something like a Misfortune or a Jhin or something like that. They can blow you up early. Now, if you do take Guardian plus Barrier, which a lot of people are taking, it does make it a lot harder to kill you because you have W, Guardian, and Barrier. But it can still happen, especially in the early game. So you got to be a little bit careful. But if you can stay safe with her, she is excellent at team fighting. It is difficult to check bushes and to establish vision control later, and that's why I tend to like stuff that either has good bush check like Maokai or something that's a little bit tankier like Leona. But she's obviously doing a lot of work. She's very strong, and I've seen her do extremely well. So, and obviously statistically, she's a major outlier right now. Recon's another one that I always put a little bit higher than most other people, but he's just so versatile. The Ionian boots were a very good change for him. He really likes those. The Shirelli, because he has such long cooldowns, they're powerful, but his W and his E, only go down to a 12-second cooldown, which is pretty high by most support standards. The Shirelia's change was quite good on him. I haven't looked at the win rates. Yeah, it's one of the higher items. Curiously, Moonstone's actually pretty good on him. I didn't think that Moonstone would be that great. But yeah, Shirelia's just allows you to, and that was just buffed on this patch big time for Recon. So it's going to allow you to, help your team follow up better on your engage and just add that little bit of extra burst potential. And he's good at roaming. He's very good at playing safe in the lane. If you're going to be on weak side, if you think they're going to dive you a lot or you're going to absorb a lot of jungle pressure, he can be very good. He obviously, I think I said this a second ago, but he obviously has a premier engage, and he scales with plus healing and shielding. So you can get something like Staff of Flowing Water second, which is what I like to get most of the time. So he's got a lot of different items he can get in different situations, and he can be very strong. So he's got the engage, he's got the safety, and he can shield your allies. So if you do see those assassins, he's one of the best at dealing with something like a Zed because he can build a little bit of armor with something like Zeke's Convergence, and he can shield them with his E, and he has Guardian to help protect him. And just the way that his R and his knockup interact with his shield and just his whole kit, he's just extremely good against assassins. So I think Recon is a premier pick. You have to be careful into something like a Leona or a Maokai. Both of those are pretty good into Recon in a lot of situations, but nevertheless, I still think he's, very underrated and very strong right now. Although he is kind of difficult to play just because if you make the wrong decision, you do get hard punished and you can get blown up if you get caught out in CC, but he's still going to be good. And then Bart is the last one that I'll mention, and I like Bart because he has that long range engage. And I really, really like Engage in the support role because a lot of the best junglers are going to be like carry type of junglers, in my opinion, that don't have a lot of Engage, and the same thing is true of the top lane. So it's just really nice to have that Engage portion come from the support role. That's why most of these champs have pretty strong Engage that I pick. So Locket has definitely become the best item on him, and a lot of people are going for these tankier builds, so like Locket into Deadman's. That just allows you to just stay up there, land your auto attacks, get those meeps, you know, look for those stuns with your Q. It just allows you to be like a little off-tank team fight type of champion. So the Shirelius could be good. I thought it might be a little bit better statistically than it is right now. But it's okay. But Locket is definitely the go-to. Just off-tank Recon and just fish for those ults and make big plays and just roam around the map. And, you know, turn fights in your favor. Okay, but check out the support tier list if you want more. You know, I do an entire like hour-long dive into the top 10 or 15 champions. So be sure to check all that out. But we'll keep it short for the support so we can get to the other ones for this.
Dad was very happy, Dad.
Oh, are you very happy, Rory? Good.
And Dad was very happy too.
Yeah, that's right. Daddy's happy too.
And Dad is happy too.
Yeah. Kaiser is just everywhere right now. She's kind of like the new Jin, right? Like, oh no, are you scary? Everybody just gravitates to these major AD carries. Like it was Jin, now it's Kaiser. And she does have a 53%. Right, she's got a 44% pick rate, which is just absolutely nuts. Second place is Jin with 30. So like everybody plays Jin and Kaiser. And she just is really versatile and very strong, you know, kind of like with what I was talking about with the supports. They just have nerfed a lot of the early game damage, I think, and they've nerfed some of the assassins, you know, in early game, like junglers that might come down and sit on you, and that's just going to give you time to scale up. And really versatile champion overall, lots of different itemization options. The Hail of Blades in the Kraken Slayer is still kind of the gold standard on her, because then you get those 3 auto attacks really quickly to trigger Kraken Slayer, and that already gets your passive stacked up as well, so you get some burst out of that. Combined with your Q, she can operate almost as like an assassin, so you can go like really high sustained damage, but you can also go, you know, just assassination when you're playing in YOLO Q and everyone's just running around constantly getting caught. You know, she can fly in out of nowhere and clean up a bunch of kills and turn fights around. So, really strong right now. Excellent user of Collector as well. I mean, this is kind of the go-to item. Like, a lot of my ADCs, in fact, pretty much all of them are going to want Collector. I guess maybe not Ashe, but the vast majority of them want Collector early. This item's just busted. The design is just too strong for AD carry because it has Critical Strike and Lethality on it. And that's just way too much damage. And AD. Yeah, it doesn't have attack speed, but I would argue that of the major stats for a lot of AD carries, attack speed is often the weakest stat. There are some champions, obviously, where you want to attack a lot, but a lot of League of Legends is about just doing that burst damage and killing somebody before they kill you, or before they have time to react even, in some situations. And this is historically why a lot of kind of your really popular AD carries, like your Jinxes, your Vaynes, and stuff like that, why they're so bad early game. Often Jinx is okay, I guess, but it's because they need a lot of attacks. They need a lot of attack speed, and almost every other class has a wide array of champions that just do a lot of bursts. So AD carries, it doesn't matter, you know, what your DPS is over 10 seconds with a lot of attack speed if you're dead in 1 second, right? And so that's been an item, a type of item that has historically been too strong to have in the hands of AD carries, is something that provides a lot of upfront burst to mitigate the fact that AD carries are supposed to scale. It makes them too strong early. That's why a lot of the lethality items were nerfed back in the day. It was because AD carries abused them too much. Stuff like the really old school Ghostblade and things like that didn't get nerfed until the ADCs start picking it up. But anyways, Collector's that new item, right? It's got crit, which AD carries actually like, and it has lethality. So it's just too strong. But anyways, yeah, Kaiser just does a little bit of everything. And And there are a couple of different builds you can do on her as well. I mean, Gale Force is still okay, even after the nerf, if you really want that extra piece of burst. Kraken is good if you do want a bit more of sustained, but it also has the burst with Hail of Blades. And then it's just the Collector is just going to just pretty much wreck everybody. You can get Hurricane for... good job, Rory. For getting your evolve, like your attack speed evolve, if you really want that. I don't remember... Okay, good job, Rory. Thank you. I think that gives her the invisibility, which is nice, like, as a third item. You can do Nashers. I really don't like this on her that much. It does allow you to evolve your W, but I'd rather just have the teamfight potential off of Runins. And the wave clear, too, is very nice off of Runin. So she's just fantastic. She makes really good use of a lot of the items. She is a bit weaker in the early game, so you do have to be careful into something like a Misfortune or a Jin. They can dumpster you in the early game. What's her win rate against those champs anyways? Let me just see if my logic sort of fits in with the stats and facts here. Counter rate. Looks like she's actually pretty good into Jin, surprisingly. Oh, thank you, Rory. And Misfortune. So it looks like she only has bad matchups into Swain and Seraphine. Is that right? Weak against? Strong against. Yeah. Good job, Rory. So, okay, I guess my logic is a little bit off. She is literally good against everything. She has a positive win rate against everything. I was listening to Double If comment on a Kaiser game that people were playing, and he was saying that she was really overrated and that she had like a lot of bad matchups in the bottom lane. But at least in solo queue, obviously Double If's a great player. I highly recommend checking out some of his commentary on pro games lately. It's very insightful, very good stuff. But yeah, statistically, at least at Platinum, you know, she pretty much wins against everybody. Even stuff where you would think she might have a hard time early. Like, I would think she'd have a hard time against Jin and Misfortune. But she seems to do pretty well into those two. So, yeah, very, very strong champion right now. Definitely pick her up if you don't play her. So, she is a little bit slower in the early game if you don't get super fed. But if you just don't feed too hard, you'll probably come through and find some opportunities to get back into the game. Okay, Misfortune is another one. Now, she doesn't have the highest win rate of a lot of these champions up here. But I think that her kit is just really good right now if you're getting the right type of items. Excellent collector user. I've talked about that before. And I think that Gale Force is also extremely strong on her. It just adds that little bit of extra burst, and she already can put out a lot with her Q spam, E spam. You can get them pretty low with the E spam. I personally do not like the mana meter on her after the nerfs. It's 2,900, so it's about as much as a lot of big ticket items. And your ult does not apply on hit; it just can crit. So I don't see a lot of synergy. Like, your E doesn't apply on hit. You do get the mana that does allow you to spam your E a little bit more in the early game. So like, that's cool, but I just feel like people just index towards that a little bit too much. And that's reflected here, that it is a lower win rate than most of the other items you can start with. So you can get it if you want, but I feel like it's a little overrated. I would probably either go Gale Force or Kraken Slayer is pretty good too. Now, you can trigger Kraken pretty quickly because just auto Q auto triggers it for the extra damage, so that is pretty nice. And then the Essence Reaver change is huge on her, and you'll notice that that is a big ticket second item. It's even better than the Collector on her second, so you kind of need Infinity Edge third, so you sort of have to choose between Essence Reaver and Collector, which is a little awkward. Collector, ironically enough, is the best item to rush, but it's a very low sample size on those stats, or at least one of the best items to rush. But anyways, so she does have some options. She is strong, deletes people in team fight. She moves around very quickly. She can rotate to different situations. What is it, Rory? You got some...
Dad, you can share some with me.
I can open them here in a minute, Rory. Come on.
Rory, I've got some right here for you. Why don't we eat some of these?
Uh-huh. And then we can have...
Then we can have some more.
Okay.
Come on.
There you go.
Okay.
Yeah, Mommy needs your help.
Okay.
So anyways, I think she's very strong, very impressive in the lane, excellent team fighter, great at rotations, good at back timing, great scaling. She's just perfect. If you're auto-filled ADC or you're just not really sure how your support's going to do, I think that Misfortune is the best sort of go-to AD carry to play, because she's almost never going to be bad. Okay, and then Senna's kind of just rocketed back up here, and I gotta put her up here for some respect. And I'll be honest, I did not see this coming, like as far as the win rate goes. But I did play against the Senna, so I can anecdotally tell you it was a Senna support, I think, but she was really throwing down some damage even without a lot of items. She just had so many souls. She has a much higher win rate in AD carry. You can try her in support, but as we saw a little bit earlier, I think she still has like a 48% win rate in support. But as AD carry, she's got a 54% win rate right now. So they did buff her several times. I didn't think it was going to be this significant on the buffs, but maybe it was. I don't know. So she is pretty bad against tanks. However, no one's playing tanks hardly anywhere right now. Like, you're seeing a couple here and there. I guess you've got like your Leonas. You know, in the support role, you're seeing some tanks, but you're not seeing them in the jungle or the top lane. So that's very good news for her, because she really just wants to be able to burst and blow people up. Now, mana immune on her is okay. Like, she does kind of need the mana, and her Q can trigger the on hit, so that is pretty nice. I think it only triggers it on the first champion hit. But either way, it is a decent item on her. She can reposition with Boots of Swiftness, and her passive gives her that movement speed, so she's like pretty good at kiting people out. And then she's got a couple of different options right now. She's obviously going to be a very strong collector user, because attack speed is awful on her. So collector is just kind of perfect. Oh, thank you. Nom, 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 nom. What's mommy doing? I thought mommy needed your help. You want to go see what mommy's doing? Her phone's too loud for you? Can you go tell her that? And maybe she'll turn it down? But anyways, so she's got that option. And then Dustblade is surprisingly pretty good as well. I guess Dustblade is a little bit better than Collector if you get that second. Gives you that invisibility, gives you time to reposition. It was nerfed recently, which is kind of bad. I think, didn't they give it? They gave it more ability haste, I believe, which is actually quite good for her, because she has really high impact spells. So maybe that was net positive for Senna. But at any rate, she's very strong right now. Great range, excellent harassment early, good CC with her W. Her E is surprisingly like pretty solid in a lot of places, because the enemy can't target you. And that can really impact a lot of champions out there. I know it's very annoying against Malachi, because I can't press my W and target somebody when that's going on. With Leona, you know, sometimes it can be tricky to get that auto attack in there. And then, of course, she has her ultimate, which has that, you know, global presence as well. So, very good utility champion. A lot of the other champions have been nerfed. Tanks have fallen out of the meta. And so she is rising up to be, you know, a premier lane bully, excellent utility, AD carry. Rory said that she did not go to help you as much because she thought your phone was too loud. She said her phone's too loud.
I was putting a nail into the wall.
Oh, okay.
That was too loud.
Oh, I see. Rory doesn't like loud things.
Except for her.
Exactly.
She's the loud thing.
Jen is still pretty good as well. What, you want some more, Rory?
Mm-hmm.
It's like Mom, you're going to eat all the crackers, aren't you?
Mom. Mom having some.
Okay, there you go.
Thanks.
Hey. You eat those and I'll give you some more.
Okay.
Okay. She's trying to run away with the whole sleeve. But yeah, I mean, he still does similar stuff. The Gale Force nerf does hurt him a little bit. Because he doesn't have a great alternative.
Favorite treat.
But still does a lot of damage, has great wave clear with the grenades. If you're good at hitting the ulti shots, excellent at finishing people off. Sometimes even opening fights if you can't get in close enough for anything else. Excellent with the Collector, very similar to Senna. Attack speed is pretty terrible on him. So the fact that he can get a couple of items early that don't weigh too heavily on the attack speed is nice. Has problems against tanks, similar to Senna. Senna's just kind of a better version of Jen right now. She doesn't have as much wave clear, but I would say her ultimate is usually more useful. You know, they both have like W's that can CC people in different ways. They're pretty similar, but I think that maybe she uses some of the more popular items a little bit better than he does right now, just because Gale Force has been nerfed a couple of times, but he's still going to be pretty strong. And then Ashe is another one that I think is very good. There are several other things that could still be picked. I don't like Vayne that much right now. I just think she gets bullied too hard in lane, and she's too reliant on attack speed. Twitch can actually be... He's got a really high win rate, but he is sort of a sitting duck to get chain CC'd and blown up. Is there some sort of new build on him? Really? People are just doing the Nashers still? I had someone play this against me the other day, and I don't know. I feel like it's just not as good as people make it out to be, but maybe I'm just playing against bad Twitches. Yeah, so people are just doing that and just straight up not getting any mythics, basically. Good job, Roy. Yeah, they're just saying, screw the mythic, we're just doing Nashers. He does have good AP ratios. I don't know. I haven't seen that version of it. Usually people get Nashers second or third, so maybe people figured out a good build. Oh, you want any more, Roy?
What?
So I don't know. I mean, I guess Twitch can be good if you have like a Lulu or something, maybe. That's right, Rory. But anyways, I like Ashe. She's got the arrow. She has the W. I think Essence Reaver, I was predicting that would be pretty good on her as like a second item. I don't know if people are actually doing that or not. Oh, Rory, don't make a mess though. You got to eat it all, okay? Don't crumble it on the floor. It's too yummy. You got to eat it. Yum, 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 yum. Well, no one's really buying it. No one's getting Essence Reaver on her. I guess maybe she didn't hurt that much for the mana. But either way, she's got the arrow. She has the slow. She brings a lot of utility to the role. And I'm a big fan of ADCs with utility, just in case you get camped or you fall behind or something later on in the game. And so that's why a lot of these, like Misfortune, Senna, Jhin, Ashe, a lot of them have quite a bit of utility to fall back on, just in case things don't go quite the way that you planned. Trist has a huge win rate right now, and Trist can be good if you get ahead. She snowballs super hard early, but she does have low range. It's difficult to control the wave in the early game, and she really doesn't bring that much utility. But nevertheless, I think that she is pretty good. Samira, I believe, is overrated in Platinum. People just don't use her kit as well as they could. I mean, everyone's been in that game where Samira just like 1v5s and kills everybody, and that makes it seem like she's really OP. But statistically, it is a little bit lower win rate, kind of low range early. It just requires some setup to use her ult properly. So she is very good. And in Pro, I think she's really good when you can use that Whirlwind to, you know, help protect yourself and your allies from different forms of CC out there. But in solo queue, I just have her a little bit lower. But anyways, that's my top 5. All pretty good. ADC as a role right now is probably the most improved role, ADC and supports, on this patch statistically. Okay, let's look at mid lane. So I think Seraphine is the #1 mid laner right now for me. And a lot of these are kind of like utility mages, kind of like I was mentioning at the bottom. It's kind of like a meta of utility in a lot of roles, but she's rocking a 56% win rate right now. Excellent poke. You know, she has a cheap build with Moonstone and Staff of Flowing Water that you can get in mid lane. You can also go like a Ludens and Archangels or Rylai's or something if you want. But I think if your support's not doing it, if like no one else on your team is getting Staff of Flowing Water, she's an excellent candidate, and it's gonna get it nerfed, because a lot of these things that are not supports are starting to try out Staff of Flowing Water, and it is working out sometimes. Seraphine is one where it actually works out quite well in the mid lane. Now there's some other things, Lilia, which we can talk about in a little bit. Actually, the Moonstone in solo queue is like a 7% lower win rate than Staff of Flowing Water, or than Liandry's. So Liandry's is like 7% higher, but Moonstone on Moonstone does work on Seraphine in the mid, right? It's got a 57% win rate. So it is better than all of the alternatives. So it's not just like, you know, a special situation. And it's the most picked. And then Staff of Flowing Water is way stronger than the alternatives as well. So this is one where you actually can build those cheap support items and be quite strong.
Oh, what there's still free more.
Here you go. Rory, you just have the thing. Your mommy will take it. Mommy's got it.
Mommy, you can
So she has, you know, just like we talked about in the bot lane, but I think in mid lane you can get to those items even faster. And I guess she probably doesn't run Guardians, probably runs like Airy or Comet or something. Probably just Airy. Yeah. So you can harass a little bit better, but just excellent utility mage. Very, very difficult to win team fights against her. And if you're just sitting there farming off, she's going to be one of the best ones because she can leverage those cheap items, get the power spike, get the dragons, get the rifts, going a little bit faster in the game. Okay, Nivea's another one. It's a real terror. She just has not been nerfed yet. And she's extremely powerful right now after those changes. They did nerf her a little bit, but it was a couple of patches ago. Just does huge amounts of damage. The mana cost reduction on the E is massive. So she can just spam that in fights. And just really, really good with the burn items, right? So the Leandries is just perfect item for her. It's got the mana. It has the magic resist shred. It's got the CDR. It's got everything. So Leandries, super strong on her. You can do Ludens, and that does help you reposition if they're going to be running at you with a lot of things like Olaf or Darius with Ghost or something like that. Ludens might be able to keep you a little bit safer, but I still think that Leandries is super strong. And then you've got Archangels, which was modestly buffed a couple of patches ago. I think they gave it like 5 AP. And then something like Demonic Embrace is going to be pretty strong as well. So Queen of Wave Clear. She actually looks like she does fall off quite a bit late game, but really strong in the early game. Excellent wave clear. Very difficult to close out against her. So yeah, just very strong mage. Now she cannot roam to the side lanes. So if you have some kind of weak side lanes, if they're gonna get pushed in and dominated, and you can't go help them. So if your bot lane is like Ezreal, Janna, and the enemy team is, you know, something like Seraphine, Jhin, or Seraphine, Misfortune, then your bot lane's just going to get annihilated, and there's not a lot you can do about that. Versus if you were playing, you know, something that could roam better, like a Fizz, then you might be able to help out your bot lane and not just sit there and allow them to get smashed. So that is one thing to consider, is that her, you know, macro is pretty terrible compared to some of the other options. Speaking of good macro, we've got Galio, and I had Galio number 1, and you could still make a case for him being really far up there. They did nerf Protobelt on this patch, specifically targeted towards Galio, I believe, because they stopped the movement speed, so you can't like Protobelt forward and then just run at people as fast with your taunt. But he still does a lot of good things. He still has a really high win rate. And he's got that macro, right? So he can ult and influence side lanes, and he just has so many good little combos that you can do with him. You know, the classic Camille Galio. Camille's the most popular top laner right now, or one of them. Leona Galio, Hecarim Galio, just anything that can dive and get on that back line and just give him, you know, a point of entry. It's going to be very strong. And he has a lot of base damage. He's tanky. He's got a lot of CC with his taunt and his Justice Punch with his E. He's just fantastic. The more I talk about him, the more I'm thinking maybe I should put him as number 1. But I think that he can have a hard matchup potentially into Seraphine and Anivia, because he's not going to be able to pressure them in lane early. And that means that they're just going to scale up. And I think Seraphine's just going to bring more utility and scaling with Moonstone and Staff of Flowing Water. And then Anivia is just going to be able to push him in and make it a lot more difficult for him to roam without giving up a lot of CC. You can have it. Nom, 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 nom. Thank you. So yeah, Galio is very strong. Then I have Malzahar. That one might be the most controversial. I think a lot of people are going to have these 3 up near the top. But I tend to like Malzahar just for the consistency, right? If you're just filled middle, or you just really want to focus on other parts of your game and you want something that's mechanically pretty simple and is always effective even if you're behind, I think he's great. And he does have about a 54% win rate right now. So a lot of people are sleeping on this guy. He can have a hard time against other poke champs, so like your Orianas, your Syndras, so like higher levels, your Zoes maybe. So like higher levels, it could be a bit tougher. But it's just so nice, especially with a carry jungler, because they can just roll up to your lane, you just press R, and then they're going to have the damage to blow them up. So if your jungler is running something like Kha'Zix or an Eve or an Olaf or anything like that, you can just spoon feed him kills over and over and over again with Malzahar middle. And he doesn't need a lot of gold to be effective, right? So that means that you can allow these carries to take more of the farm. Because that is one adjustment that's come into, and that's something that a lot of people don't talk about that I just thought about, is that, you know, with these utility champions, you don't need as much farm to be effective. So that means that you don't have to farm your allies' raptors. You know, if your Olaf wants those raptors, what is it, Rory? Did you guys already eat all the crackers? You want more?
We did.
Mommy, all the crackers.
You help.
She said you did it.
Oh, you Harry.
Um,
And I eat, and that's some more. Yeah.
but
My dad.
you know, you're welcome. But you know, if utility junglers were more popular, right? Like Nunu is strong, but if you were seeing more of those, you know, types of facilitator types of champions, Iverns and things like that, if they were more popular, you know, then you could roll up with your, you know, carry mid laner and just like power farm your raptors, or just like start taking your own junglers camps and stuff like that. You can do that with stuff like Anivia, you know, you can do it with these, but you don't have to. So that means you can give your Graves all that farm, or Kha'Zix farm. You can even give them some lane farm if they're ahead. So that's just an option. You don't have to do that, but that is nice with someone like Malzahar. You're not as farm hungry to be effective as some of the other champs. So it not only is good if you're behind, but if one of your allies is really far ahead, you can donate them some farm if you trust they're going to use that lead well and get him ahead. So he's very carryable, you know, in that sense, which is a really good quality. So anyways, very strong, similar to Anivia. You know, it's primarily Leandri's is going to be the best. Some people get Ludens, but Leandri's is way better in this case. And it's just double burn, point click ultimate. You know, decent at checking bushes with his Q or with his W, his little pets, and things like that. Although you can't really control those super well, but anyway, strong champ. And then I have Fizz on here just as the premier assassins. I think a lot of assassins have fallen off. So like Zed can still be really good. You know, Katarina can be good. You know, a lot of stuff is still good. Echo's still pretty good. Cassin. Okay, so most assassins are still pretty good. I still like the control mages, but Fizz is one that I will make an exception for in solo queue, just because he's so obnoxious. You can't target him. He just gets on that backline and destroys. So if you need something that's going to be able to deal potentially, you know, with that really fed Misfortune or Senna or Ashe or whatever, Fizz is going to be a really good backline access champ. And you know, a lot of these champs can't really get there, right? They can't do anything about Misfortune in a front to back 5v5. Like, she's just going to get to channel her ult, right? But Fizz can actually do something about that. I guess like Malzahar can silence it, maybe, like limited options. But anyway, so those are the ones that I picked, but there's a lot of good stuff and a lot of different types of champs that are very good in the mid lane right now. Okay, jungle. So I still think that despite the nerfs on these top champs, I still think that Nunu is going to be number one for me early on. He just has so much utility. Yes, he did lose a little bit in terms of base stats. Yes, his win rate did go down a little bit. It's 52.8 instead of 54. But he still is excellent at taking objectives, really good ganks early with the snowball, good itemization options, mostly going to build tank, but he can get, you know, a demonic embrace or something in there if you want to as like a later item. Good utility, good buff on his passive to give your 80 carry even more attack speed and movement speed later for kiting things. So I just think he brings a lot to the table, and he's still going to be very strong. Olaf, despite the nerfs, is still going to be, you know, just absurdly overpowered right now. He's like 56% win rate, even after the nerfs. Decent pick rate, decent ban rate. What are you doing, Rory? It's still going to be Gore Drinker plus Sterix. That combination is just so obnoxious because he's going to have a lot of lifesteal, but then he's got the big shield and the burst, because one of the ways that you combat lifesteal is you blow them up before they get to lifesteal very much, right? But you can't do that with Sterix. So that buys so much extra time for him to just continually crank out that damage. So this champ is just obnoxious. Like, you can't fight him early, and he's a lot stronger later than people think he is, as long as you have an ability to, make him sticky, right? So if you have Mandate to give him the movement speed, Staff of Flowing Water to give him the movement speed, Shirelias, stuff like Lulu or Seraphine to speed him up and let him run in, it can be an issue. Now, yes, he does fall off a pretty good chunk, right, at 30 to 35 minutes. But the average game time is still going to be 25 to 30 minutes. So in a lot of games, he's going to completely dominate, right? Like, for the first 25 to 30 minutes, he has a 57% win rate. And it's not like you can't win late game. He just goes down to a 51% win rate. But that's still, like, okay. Right? So, yes, he does fall off late because he can get kited. But he's just so oppressive. He's so strong early. Great clear. Great fighting. As long as he has the speed and the stickiness, he'll just kill everybody. He's a super strong champion right now. Hecarim's another one that is still pretty good, and people are just finding all kinds of different items and builds that you can go on him, so it makes it really hard to nerf him out. I know that people were building the other Sheen item, which people are still doing with Divine Sunder, but I mean, look at this. You've got Trinity Force, Divine Sunder, and even Stride Breaker all sitting at 54% win rate. So you have a whole suite of different mythics that you can get. And then once you get into the secondaries, very adaptable as well. You don't want to get burst out? Okay, you can go Sterix. All around, really powerhouse item. They're stacking a lot of AD. You can go Death Stance. That's going to be pretty solid. You want movement speed, better access to the backline, better roaming? You can go Dead Man's Plate. So there's a ton of different items you can get on him at pretty much every stage. 1, 2, or 3. He has at least 3 items. 3 different choices, I should say, for each new item that he gets. So he's been one of the best beneficiaries of the new item changes of the preseason, because he truly is, very diverse in terms of the different things that you can take and be effective on him. And he has that backline access, which is something that's really different from Nunu. Like, Nunu's great at ganking early, and he has really good utility and CC, and he's tanky, and he's got the objective control, he's got all that stuff. But Hecarim can get to the 80 carries and the mages on the backline, which is something that Nunu can't do very well unless he gets a good flank. So that's why I think Hecarim's positioned very well. He is weaker in the early game. He does require some gold and some items before he really starts dealing that damage. But, once he gets to that first item, that Sheen item's completed, then it's off to the races. He's going to be super strong. Fiddle 6 is another one, and he did get nerfed, I think, a couple of patches ago. But he's still going to be very, very strong. He's 55% win rate right now. Does a ton of magic damage, but he also has a lot of CC and a lot of utility. Right? He gets a lot of free, vision control with his effigies, and then his ultimate can single-handedly turn games around, and he has a lot of CC with his fear and his silence. So he brings a lot to the table. Obviously, he's going to be a little bit frail if you need a tank. He's going to have a bit of a harder time getting to that back line unless you get a flank. So if you're losing a game and you can't get vision control, it can be really hard to find those engage spots. But he does have, a ton of potential if he's used correctly. And then Evelyn is the last one that I'll mention, and like I talked about earlier, I just feel like you really want to be running carries out of the jungle right now. Some of the tanks are doing pretty well and do have high win rates. Like, you've got Rammus is doing pretty well, like Udir's doing pretty well, and then like you've got Ivern, whatever he is, utility enchanter, can do very well with like the Moonstone, Staff of Flowing Water. Ivern is surprisingly very, very difficult to play correctly, especially if you don't have the right kind of team comp. So I saw one like Pro Guides video or something saying Ivern's great for low elo. I disagree. I think he's much better, at kind of mid-tier, approaching high elo. I don't think he's amazing in pro right now. I disagree with LS on that, but I think that if you're like going into like, gold, platinum, diamond, maybe some into masters, like he can still be pretty good. But he does bring a lot of utility. But I just think that you just need the carry in most elo brackets. And you just need to try to take over the game. So there is a lot of damage out there. And I think Eve is one of the best at doing it. Now, she's not as strong in the early game, but they have nerfed a lot of these bullies, right? They just nerfed Elise a little bit on this patch. You know, they've nerfed Grave several times. And honestly, especially if you're like Platinum and lower, people are not going to invade and punish you most of the time. Like, people just do not know proper timings on invades. They don't know how to manage it. So a lot of times you can get that farm. And as everyone knows, people don't respect darkness, right? And it's extremely difficult to ward for her, and people aren't going to respect it. They're going to overextend, and you're going to find ways to get kills. And the thing with Eve is just... even when she gets just Lichbane, you know, she can definitely start snowballing super hard, and can, you know, just get a bunch of free kills and take over the game. You know, if she's like 20-0, then she's going to have a high chance of winning. So I just think she's one of the best at just like turbo snowballing games if you can get away with farming to 6 and get your invisibility online. Okay, in the last few, because I do want to keep this under an hour, it's just going to be like the Bruiser gang in the top lane. I think it's going to be good. Starting with Darius and Garen. Very consistent, pretty low skill cap champs that just do way too much damage right now. We're thinking about Darius. You know, he's got the lifesteal. You can run people down. Stride Breaker is very strong. Gives you that extra little bit of jump in the slow. Combined with Ghost, you're just really sticky. Do a ton of damage. Great against tanks. Great against squishies. He did get nerfed on this patch a little bit, like the AD on his passive, but whatever. He's still just going to tear people up. I think he's fantastic at gold and lower. Starts to fall off a little bit, maybe in diamond if he gets countered, or if he gets camped, but he's still going to be really good. And then Garen, surprisingly, has come up quite a bit as well, and Garen doesn't have as much raw kill threat in the early game as Darius does, although Garen will definitely still get you. But he does split push a lot better in the late game because he has that movement and he's able to cleanse slows off of him. So if you do get ahead, he's very good at pushing at his advantage in those side lanes and then safely escaping once he absorbs that pressure from multiple people, you know, trying to run him down. So Stride Breaker, Sterix, or Deadman's going to be really strong. And he's decent in team fights. I think that Darius is going to be a little bit better if he stacks those bleeds and gets a couple of kills. He could be a little bit better, but nevertheless, Garen can still put in some work in team fights if you have enough CC to hold people still, and you've got the, you know, cleanup crew from the mages mid, ADCs, and carry junglers. He works really well in that environment. Okay. And then Wukong's another one, undercover. I talk about this all the time, man. That champion is really strong. A lot of people just don't play him, and I don't know, maybe he has bad matchups. But he's got like a 54% win rate right now. He's got the Armor Crush on his Q, which helps your entire team do more physical damage. He's got the AoE knockup off of his ultimate. He's got the clone for the outplay potential to absorb skill shots, to dodge, you know, certain interactions. He can do the double lifesteal tanky build with Divine Sunder plus Ravenous Hydra, which is going to be pretty strong. You can also go Gore Drinker. So yeah, it's just a whole suite, kind of like Hecarim. Just a whole suite of different items that can be effective in a bunch of different situations right now. So I think he's the most you know, underestimated top laner out there. And Cho'Gath is kind of the one that has, we only got a couple minutes left, so definitely try out Wukong. Cho'Gath is another one. It just kind of came out of nowhere. He had a decent win rate last patch, but just randomly, and he's got like a 3% play rate, but just randomly, he's just doing a heck of a lot of damage right now. I guess he's a large beneficiary of the changes to the Turbo Chem Tank and Frostfire. So now they're much cheaper. They're 2,800, and he loves it. He just wants to be able to stick to people and do that damage. Although Sunfire is still pretty good on him as well. So I'm not 100% sure what's going on there. Maybe he's just good against some of these meta top laners, but has a really high overall win rate, and it seems to just go up a ton over time. And he brings a lot to the table, utility-wise, right? He's got that AoE, like 3-second silence. He's got the knock-up. He has the chomp, so he can secure objectives or just, like, crack right through, you know, shields that people get, like Sterix and things like that if he has enough damage. Well, I guess it's not an execute, so the shield would block some of it. So, I don't know. But he's coming in hot, doing a ton of damage right now. Now, I haven't seen a ton of them in solo queue. He's still only a 3% play rate, but I figured I'd put him on here because like a 57% win rate is kind of hard to deny, right? He's like 57 with a 3% play rate, so some people are playing him. That's still 10,000 games, so there's something going on there. Maybe it is just the Chem Tank and the Frostfire. I don't know. But then Camille is the last one that I'll mention, and she's going to be the best like hard carry, like split pushing option. I just have her a little bit lower just because she does take more items to come online. She does take a little bit more skill than some of these other ones. She really needs Trinity, and she really starts going off after Ravenous Hydra, and both of these are very expensive items, so she can come online a little bit faster. And if you screw up some of your trades early, you can fall behind, and she doesn't have as much utility as some of these other ones, so it's more difficult to get back into the game. She can get access to the backline with her ultimate and her hook shot, which is nice if you lock up the 80 carry. Great combination with stuff like Galio and Oriana and some of these other control mages. And she can be a really good split pusher and tower taker later. So she's a beast late game. I just have her a bit lower just because she can get punished early and it can be hard to get back in. Anyways, that's going to be it. Have a good day, and we'll see you next time.